I saved over 1,000 hours in the past year personally with AI. What's better is I went to my team and I shared just the opportunity. And some of them came back and made what I did look small by comparison. If you want that for your team and your company to enable your team to see things and do things that were just never thought possible before and go from the hype and fatigue and buzzwords to actually building things, join us Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern for our free build sessions. None of the hype, all of the building, all of the answers. See you there.
The clients, they don't care so much about the tickets, they care about the outcomes, and they want faster operations, they want better visibility, better reporting, lower overhead, they want automation, security, and growth. So they're looking at IT not as a function of support, but more so a function of operational scale.
Hey guys, Damien Stevens, host of MSP Mindset, founder and CEO of Cerbosity. Today, I'm blessed to interview Robert Burke. He is the CEO of Core 12, and he's figured out how to manage 70% growth every single year. And what he just figured out is how to decouple hiring from that growth. So 70% growth, not quite as much headcount because now he's hiring agents to do real roles with real returns on investment. So if you want to know how he did that, why the industry's changing, and how he became a managed intelligence provider from a managed service provider, don't miss out on our conversation today. Robert, I want to jump into the deep end with you. I want to get right into it. Let's talk about something a lot of us aren't talking about, which is real results coming from AI. Now, we're going to get into how you did it, all those details, but I want to talk about the growth. What kind of growth did you achieve last year? What are you on track to achieve this year?
Yeah, at Core 12, we grew 62% year over year last year, and we're trending 68%, just north of 68% this year. So
that's almost unheard of, right? That's really strong growth. So I want to back up. We're going to get into some of the how, right? But I want to back up and ask, what did you do to prepare? And more importantly, where do you see this going from an industry perspective? You've got a background as an MSP and then an SSP, but now you're doing some different things. So let's start with why.
Yeah, for sure. I think we could start with that. So my background, it was in the MSP world. I founded what eventually became Core 12 over 17 years ago. And Damien, we built a security first MSP focused on small to mid-sized companies, SMBs. Primarily architecture, engineering, construction, manufacturing, and industrial services. Over time, we realized something important, just me working with these different businesses and business owners. We realized that most clients weren't actually technology problems per se. Technology was just kind of where the symptoms showed up. The real issues were around operational inefficiencies or leadership gaps, poor financial visibility, lack of accountability across the board with small businesses, broken workflows, and bad managers, bad management systems, and bad managers as well. But they had people issues, they had process issues. Yes, technology as well, but technology wasn't the be all and end all. There's structural things that needed to be fixed. And, And so we fixed the infrastructure, but the business itself was still struggling, right? And so that's eventually what led to Sobo. We can talk more about that later. But as we were looking at the MSP industry shift at Core 12, and in 2025, at the January of 25, conversations actually started back in 2024, late 2024. We saw that the MSP industry the MSP work itself was getting more commoditized, and that the MSPs that are surviving and are going and moving up the stack, they're getting into advisory, business intelligence, operational consulting, now AI enablement and automation as well. So the clients, they don't care so much about the tickets, they care about the outcomes, and they want faster operations, they want better visibility, better reporting, lower overhead. They want automation, security, and growth. So they're looking at IT not as a function of support, but more so a function of like operational scale. The small businesses that we service, they're in like the 20 to 100. A couple of our co-managed clients are in the 200 range, but most of them are like that, 20 to 100 size range. And, I think they also see the writings on the wall. They have to get more efficient. They don't necessarily know how to get more efficient. Like the number one KPI post AI, let's say mid to late 2023, the number one KPI for any business, as far as I'm concerned, is revenue per employee.
Mm-hmm.
And so it totally changes the game. It's not just about adding more people and doing more things. So,
right.
Yeah. So we looked at Core 12 and what Core 12 will be in the future state, what we want it to be. And we wanted it to be an MIP, a managed intelligence provider. And what an MIP essentially is, it's IT support, it's IT managed services. It's also cybersecurity and industry compliance like CMMC 1, 2, and 3, but also like a robust security stack, like not just adding one antivirus. Well, now you need two antiviruses with 24/7 SOC, and you all these things like as part of your cybersecurity package, which is more like in the MSSP type of playing field. Well, if you're doing MSP but you can't do MSSP, and there's other firms that can do MSSP and MSP, well, then you probably should figure out how to do that. So we said, yes, we need the second bucket, MSSP. And then the third area of an MIP is the ability to do AI and automations. And not, when I say that, I don't mean helping people get on ChatGPT.
Right.
That's local AI. That's what I call it. Maybe other people call that as well. But then there's this organizational AI that are agents that are purposely built to perform a function or functions that otherwise a human would do it, or in most cases, no one's doing it. So
yeah,
and so that's the three branches of an MIP.
So this is pretty early. It sounded like you started to realize this kind of use of organizational AI enablement and automation. And then, so I guess the first question is, how'd you come to that? How'd you arrive at that? Like, what was it that you saw that said, I see this trend, or is it the customers or something you read, or how did you get there?
It really came out of my journey launching Sobo as a platform. As it's a SaaS enabled platform for companies that are looking to unpack or get clarity on what's holding their company back, not just in technology, any area of the business, HR, finance, ops, leadership, strategy, sales, marketing.
So you built a new company called Sobo, and just to help me understand, when did that happen?
Yeah, so it happened it was a PowerPoint slide in early of 2023. And then we raised some friends and family round. We built the initial pilot version of the product. And, we got to our numbers that we wanted to hit. And then we decided that, okay, we achieved some level of product market fit. Now's the time to build it right. So we did that over the course of 6 months in the end of 2025, starting in June. I had to bring in a new CTO that knew what good looked like, and I had to bring in a new chief sales officer that knows what good looks like. And then we just rebuilt the product, and we rebuilt the sales strategy, the motions from scratch. And we relaunched Sobo in January of this year.
I'm just trying to set this up. If I understand this right, you looked at your own operations, your own enablement and automation. You looked through the lens.
I really built Sobo for myself and for my business owner friends. Right, I built it because every business owner I know, they have two big problems that are constant, regardless of their industry or whatever. And it's lack of clarity on what's holding their company back. And it's also lack of ability to execute. As a SMB, we can't hire everybody that we want to hire, and we can't just fix the problem with people. People cost a lot of money. Good people cost a lot of money. Great people are, they cost even more. So, so it's going to be a constant struggle, but it doesn't matter. Like, you have to figure out, how do I get access to experts? How do I figure out what my issues are, and how do I structurally solve for that? And so we did that. We built that solution with Sobo, and that's what Sobo does. Is it provides insights, diagnostics for companies looking to unpack what their issues are, and it also matches them with experts in that area that can solve that problem, that are proven to have solved that problem many times over. So.
So what are the lessons learned when you I want to get into Sobo more later, but I just want to start with an MSP and MSSP, trying to figure out what is even managed intelligence, and how do we, you dog fooded it yourself, right? What were some of the lessons learned there that stuck out?
Yeah. So, as we were going through the process of transforming into an MIP last year, I hired an AI automations engineer at Core 12. Well, at Sobo, but we brought him in at Core 12. And we had him start developing and deploying organizational AI at Core 12. And we've built out several agents that are doing the jobs that previously in past iterations of the company I had a person doing. And so, I can tell you what we built out. We can get into that. But essentially, yes, I went through the process of deploying organizational AI internally so that we can learn what works, what doesn't, develop a framework that we can then offer to our clients.
So give me a few examples. And also, to me, the question is always, where do I start?
Sure.
I could build a million things, or it sounds awesome, but hearing what you built will help give me a frame, but also how did you even figure out what to build?
Yeah. Well, so first I'll start and I'll answer that question, but I went to a conference recently and, in a room of, 100 business owners, and, the question was asked, how many people are using AI in their company? And everyone raised their hand, maybe 80% raised their hand. But most businesses and business owners in that room, but across the board, they're thinking about AI wrong. They think, how do I use ChatGPT? That's not the real question. The real question is how do I redesign my company around AI and automation? That's organizational AI. So it's all about workflows, accountability, process automation, operational visibility, AI agents that are serving a function or multiple functions, and that sort of thing. So AI shouldn't sit outside of the business or just be confined to local AI, which is what I call ChatGPT and Claude and those things. It should also become embedded into how the business operates. So the first thing that we automated at Core 12 was dispatch. So we have a Core 12 dispatch agent. It runs 24/7. It's integrated with our PSA. It's checking tickets that are coming in. It is routing them to the appropriate technician based on availability and skill set. And it's also doing follow-ups on SLAs. And we also have a kind of an extension to that's a separate agent, but they all kind of work together. They really should work together in many cases. But
Sure.
We have an agent that we call Athena that runs inside of Teams because we use Teams. So it keeps the service desk updated on, any failures across our client sites, any tickets that maybe they haven't responded to on the PSA. Well, Athena will let them know that, hey, you need to jump on that issue. It's approaching the 30-minute mark or whatever. So, and it's also a way for them to ask, hey, can you give me more information on this or that? So we have this kind of command agent in Teams, could be ported to Zoom or whatever, but we've built it for Teams. And then we have Core 12 dispatch, assigning the tickets and performing the follow-ups, and also letting the clients know via email that, hey, it's been assigned to, whoever, Sam or Jonah or whoever, and they're working on it and they'll be in touch. And if they mentioned a time that they want for us to connect, it'll say that in the ticket that we'll attempt to reach out to you at this time. So it's, there's logic and AI. We're not. It's not just like it's not a copy paste transaction.
Yeah.
It's intelligent, right? That's the benefit of AI. It's not just automation. And so the other area that we built an agent on is billing reconciliation, because like all MSPs, we're charging for subscriptions. We're getting billed by vendors for subscriptions. The vendor bills and the PSA don't talk to each other well, and that has to be reconciled. And it was up until 3 months ago, it was all manual here for the last 17 years.
Yep.
And it's to the tune of like, it'll be 30 hours a month that you're spending reconciling the bills. So now it gets done automatic 24/7.
So let's go back. You built the dispatch first.
Yeah.
Why?
We built dispatch first because that is actually a role that we had to constantly replace, because our techs want to be techs.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to do dispatch. And so dispatch it's also a function that it's repetitive, and it's easily automated. It's an automation candidate. It's like, I think that's probably one of the first ones that MSPs should automate. If someone wants to pick up
if I understand, it was part that it wasn't boiling the ocean. It was something that was relatively approachable, not for a first agent project. But also, if I understand you, it was kind of the job you didn't have the right person for, that nobody on your team wanted to do.
That is correct. That is correct. Yeah.
I think that's important, because I think so many people think that it's just, I'm going to replace somebody. And sometimes you don't have the right person, or they don't enjoy doing that repetitive work, or they don't, for some reason, they want to sleep. They don't want to work 24/7.
Exactly. And, and 10 years ago, you could get a dispatch person willing to do the job for, $40K. And now it's, $60K. Well, I can spend, $10,000 deploying an agent that can do that job. And, we didn't let anyone go. It was just, now's the time. Let's build out a dispatch agent, and we just won't fill that position when it comes back up again, because we don't need it. We can hire people. We can hire local techs for L1, L2, L3. And because that's the human aspect. I mean, the service, there's the QA/QC part that will always, as long as there's a human on the other side, there needs to be a human on your side for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For everybody listening, watching, like, how would you approach this? Would you hire a full-time AI engineer? Would you dive into this to yourself? Would you hand it off to somebody on your team? Like, how would, because you started thinking through dispatch kind of hurts, the billing reconciliation, that hurts. Let me figure out, I think it makes a lot of sense to start with a real pain, right? You did that. But also on the pragmatic side, like, how does someone start?
Yeah, no, So the first thing is, you don't want to just throw, paint at the wall and see what sticks with AI. You need to have a product requirements document drafted. Either you draft it yourself or someone else drafts it. Probably should be the business owner. If they know that role really well, they should probably draft that out. And then if you have a resource internally that knows Python, that knows, N8N or what other, tools that are available to build that out, if you want to pull them off of what they're doing to do that, have at it. In my situation, I brought in a person, an AI engineer, through Sobo. So I had a benefit. I mean, I was paying this person a $100K salary to do work on the diagnostic engine and other things. And we just kind of redeployed them to solve for this issue and, or to build out these agents. But if I didn't have that person, then I would not try to hire a local developer to do it. I would not. I mean, me personally, I would bring in an expert that knows how to deploy that agent, to build it, not only to build it, but also to support it, to DevOps it, because it does need to be updated from time to time, right?
Isn't that what you created Sobo for? to help people find the right
That is
answers.
exactly why I created Sobo, to help businesses uncover what their issues or pain points are their hopes, dreams, aspirations, what's your vision, and then matching them with someone who can execute that. So we
Mm-hmm.
actually have a diagnostic dashboard in Sobo called AIQ, and that was that is essentially a dashboard where you could go in as a business owner and you can um, create an agent. Now, when you're creating an agent, you're just kind of scoping it out, but then you're getting matched to an expert who can deploy that agent and then DevOps that agent for you on an engagement basis. So you're not spending 10 grand a month to build out AI. You're spending significantly less.
So I want to be clear about this. Can regular business use this, or for Sobo, or MSPs only, or who do you recommend uses Sobo?
I recommend, any small to mid-sized business owner that is looking for clarity and looking for ability to execute, they should tap into Sobo. We partner with other marketplaces to expand our expert talent pool. We also partner with agencies. We partner with MSPs. We partner with HR companies that have an established audience base. They don't have the diagnostic engines built out. We can build that out for them, but we partner with partners that have an audience base and they have experts, and we can make it a win-win-win for everyone. So that way, when you have an audience coming from your client base into Sobo, they're tagged to you for life. So they're your client. They will remain your client. If you're, for example, an MSP and technology is a business area in Sobo, that gets closed looped off to that MSP only. So any requests for insights or deep dives or experts or engagements are going to go to that provider, to that agency that's partnered with us. But then there's also,
help me unpack this. If I understand this, I could go to the Sobo platform. I don't have to be an expert. You said build an agent, but it sounds like it's a discovery process to recruit, to basically try to figure out what the requirements are. And so, like, if I understand, like, why not do that? Really sounds like no risk. And then where the rubber meets the road is only if I, get paired up, find somebody,
decide to engage. That's right. Yeah, that's right. So there's a discovery process, and that's, there's no cost for that. You're scoping out an agent. You're submitting a match. You'll have a conversation with an expert, and if you don't like that expert, you can swipe left, and pick the expert that that you feel like you could trust to build this agent out. Keep in mind that every expert on the platform, whether it's coming through experts that we've personally curated or experts that we're bringing in from partner networks, they've all been vetted. These are people that have, they've done HR for the last, 10, 15 years, or they've done, AI build out for the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, right? They've built out organizational AI. So you're not trying to hire a local person that, and, see how far they can go with it. Like, you're hiring someone that they can take. If you don't have a products requirement document for your AI, they can help you build one out, and they can go over the engagement plan with you. And if you want to engage with them, you just click a button. So
this answers I don't have the talent, or I don't know exactly how to do it. I don't know where to find the talent. Like, I just know that I need to move in this direction. And so this is the how, right? This answers that. There's some of the clarity and some of the resource in terms of who can do it, some of the how and some of the who. I want to zoom back out for a minute and talk about why you think the industry is going this way, and why be a managed intelligence provider, and why you're at it. Like, that's pretty new. So what does that even mean to you?
Yeah. So what MIP means to me is 3 things: IT managed services, cybersecurity and industry compliance, and then AI automations. And, for the MSP specifically, it's, if you don't have the capabilities of internally deploying organizational AI, you can partner with Sobo or another agency that, you'll have a rev share agreement with them, and there's wallet share there. You're not going to lose out on not only that opportunity, but future opportunities with that client. And you're going to keep doing what you're really good at. You get to focus, you get to focus on what you're really good at and not have to worry about whether it's the AI piece, or in some cases, maybe it's the MSS piece or industry compliance piece. I think a lot of MSPs are already comfortable with that, like partnering with an MSSP or a compliance partner. And then there's rev share model involved. Same with AI. Like any MSP could present themselves as an MIP so long as they have all the ability to execute. See, we're being paid to solve a problem, and we have a process for solving that problem. Whether we solve that problem internally with people that we employ as a W-2, or whether we're using a contractor, whether we're using a partner, at the end of the day, the clients don't matter. They have a problem, they want it solved. And so if you're solving their IT support, but you're not solving for their cybersecurity or their AI automations, well, maybe they'll just go to someone that is. And so what we want to do is enable MSPs, with Sobo, for example. We want to enable agencies that, hey, this is the areas that I'm really good at. These other areas, I don't want to spend a lot of money and time building these capabilities out, but I do want the wallet share. I want to tap into that. So we enable that through partnerships at Sobo.
Gotcha. So why managed intelligence provider, and why now?
There's a need to evolve, I think, now as an MSP.
Why do you think that is now?
I think
what changed?
I think it's not necessarily now, but I would say within the next, let's call it 3 to 5 years. Okay. We have, as an MSP, you're their IT partner. By extension, you're their technology partner, right? Well, they're going to lump AI into technology.
Mm-hmm.
So there's maybe 5% of small to mid-sized companies that are intentionally deploying organizational AI. That number is going to grow. I don't think it'll grow to more than 50%. I think the other 50 that don't adopt it, their revenue per employee is going to continue to drop. And eventually they're either going to be sucked up by private equity, who's then going to operationalize at scale those AI for you. Or you're just going to continue to kind of, maybe just stay in your lane and just, do what you can to just keep the clients that, aren't adopting the AI. So like you could certainly say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to do AI. I'm just going to focus on clients that only want IT and maybe some cybersecurity, but they don't want to adopt organizational AI. So you could do that. For me, the clients that I want to work with are the ones that want to push the envelope.
Yeah, I understand that. So is that personal preference? They want to push the envelope, or are you thinking this is another opportunity to be ahead and to differentiate?
Yeah, I think for small to mid-sized companies, as private equity continues to suck up these small businesses, there's increasing competitive pressure. These private equity groups, they are tapping into AI in their platforms. I'm sure most people listening saw the news earlier this week on Anthropic starting a new, could be $1.5 trillion consulting agency for AI deployment to enterprise. But some of those enterprises are those private equity groups, right? And so, they're going to benefit from it because they're going to spend the money on it. As a small business, if you're not adopting AI, and let's say maybe not now, but over the next 5 years, yeah, you're going to be in a really tough spot, because if you're not deploying it for yourself or for your clients, then you're just not going to be able to compete as well.
So I agree with that. And you call it organizational AI, where the AI, the agent, actually does something. And what I mean by that is it doesn't just summarize what you pasted. It's doing a job. It's doing
That's right.
dispatch, or
Yep.
in your case, billing or reconciliation or other things. So why does that matter in terms of how you can help your client?
Well, we're technology experts, right? So I think it's like if you're a lawyer, if you want to be a great lawyer, you got to stay up to date on the latest case law and the latest, where politics is moving. Like you have to be in tune with that. So I think it's the same thing. I think it's just one of those things where, you either grow or die.
So I think if I hear what you're saying, right, long term, your MSP will fall behind if you don't do something with organizational AI. And also if the customers you're serving aren't. They're probably not the growth ones. They're probably the ones the most at risk as well, right? So it's kind of a double-edged sword there, right? You're risking your business, but you're also essentially choosing you're choosing your client base as one that's most likely to be at risk or declining.
That is correct. And then there's different strategies. We talked about them earlier. You can build out the capabilities internally, or you can partner with someone that can do it for you. And then you can, there's a bite of the apple on that. There's rev share on all those engagements that happen across your client base.
What do you think? All I do is talk to MSPs and work with them on this and talk to them about this being the transformation that's going on in the industry, what you're calling organizational AI. I have an operating methodology called compounding teams, where you use agentic AI and work with humans and agents. And my point is, if this is happening, and it is, and if it's continuing to do so, what do you think is holding most MSPs back from? Because we've been like, MSS, like cloud computing, let's jump into that. MSSP, okay, let's jump into that. But I feel like this time there's more resistance to jump in. Is that just because it's still new, or do you think there's something else?
It could be that it's new. That's definitely a possibility. It could also be like, look, change is hard, right? It's hard to change. It's hard to evolve. It takes a lot of energy, and effort. And as business owners, we have the least amount of time, right? We give maximum effort. So how much more effort can we give? And I think it's just more about figuring out creative ways to do it that don't involve so much of your time. And sometimes that means stepping back and letting, somebody else take care of it.
So for folks that are MSPs, maybe also MSSP, and they're sitting there going, MIP, that sort of thing. Let's say I engage, or I want to use Sobo and I want to do that. But where do I start? Do I start at my next TBR? Do I start with my vCISO or my offering, or, acronym soup aside? Do I start when I'm sitting down in front of a client trying to uncover issues broader than IT and then bring those back? Do I start by dogfooding it internally or something else? What do you recommend?
First and foremost, I would recommend taking a long weekend and just, find some quiet space. If you need to book a hotel, spend a day or two somewhere that normally don't, and just get away from the day to day, because you can't solve your problems if you're constantly in your problems, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But then when you're by yourself as a business owner, and you're there for you're a business owner because you're not traditionally a nonlinear thinker. You see things differently. And so you have the ability internally to figure that out. Then you can go to counsel. You can counsel with other business owners, and then kind of flesh that out a little bit more. And then I wouldn't go to my team until I had a clear plan, me personally.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. Tell me about that, because I feel like that my belief is it's mindset first, then culture, then lastly tools.
That's right.
What's your experience been with? You've transformed a ton, right? You not only have Sobo, you're now a managed intelligence provider. Like that's a pretty big shift. And you had this 17, a lot like me, I've been in business for 20 years. You've been in business 17. So there's some identity there as a company and as individuals. So what kind of challenges do you see, or what kind of lessons do you see on the kind of the cultural and team side?
Well, I mean, I agree 100% with your process, your framework. It's mindset first, then it's team culture, and then it's tools. A lot of times we start in reverse. It's like, we got to get the right tools, and then we got to get the right people, and then we can get no, it's like, okay, so you have to, yes, apply Damien's framework. Think about it that way. And, challenge yourself to make, after you go through your planning process, take a step. And I mean, you might say, hey, you know what? I see what's happening. And from my perspective, where this goes over the next few years, okay, MSP industry splits into two different groups. One group stays more support focused and gets increasingly commoditized. And the other group evolves into like intelligence providers, operational intelligence providers. And there's going to be challenges with both of those. But you'll have to decide. Every person's situation is going to be different. Like, if I wasn't 45 and I was 65, now's a great time to exit. But if I'm in my 40s or maybe even early 50s, mid 50s, you still have time in, especially if you have kids, you have things to pay for. Iterate. Let's iterate. Let's make some improvements, and maybe start by automating your dispatch, or maybe bill reconciliation. Like, I'm sure everyone can relate to that. Oh yeah, my account manager and my bookkeeper, they have to work through this at 20 hours a month. Well, that 20 hours a month times two people times what you're paying them, that's a lot of money. So,
yeah, 100%.
And it doesn't get done consistently every single month.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, if you're leaving money on the table, you're overpaying, and almost everybody is, right? And if you're not overpaying on the vendor, you're spending a lot for that really great person to throw a lot of time at it.
That's right.
So it's a cost one way. It's not always it's kind of a thankless job, right? Because it's like you always got to chase something. A little bit like dispatch. So that's what I'm seeing as a pattern. It didn't seem like you had the right person. It seemed like thankless job, somewhat jobs that are either repetitive, didn't have the right person, like just where your company was. My point is, you didn't come in and try to take a job that somebody loved and then was doing well, right? And I think sometimes people miss that. They go, I'm going to try to replace all of L1 support, or, and I feel like, first of all, you're trying to boil the ocean. Like, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Second of all, why would you try to do that when you have you haven't figured out?
That's right, because you're really good you're really good L2 techs, we're L1 techs, and you're really good L3 techs, we're L1 techs and L2 techs. So you need that pipeline, because you're always going to need L2, L3 techs. I mean, at least for the next, I would say forever. The human, it's the QA/QC has to be performed by that last touch. And
speaking of that, on the human side, have you run into the fear of, well, if you have a dispatcher and a billing person, like, is my job next, or are you only going to need me half as much? Because you're adopting things and you're moving ahead of a lot of people, Robert.
Yeah, when we started deploying the dispatch agent last year and billing reconciliation, people were saying, "Whoa, I'm doing procurement. Does that mean you don't need me anymore?" And we had to have conversations, like multiple conversations, because one's not enough. Let them know, hey guys, listen, I hired you for a reason, and the reason is because you're really good at solving problems. And so your path to success here is L1, L2, L3. Maybe you split off into operations. Maybe you're the next operator at 412. Like, there's there's room to grow. We don't want to push you into an area that is number one, it's not your strong suit. Even if it is your strong suit, I mean, how can you be passionate? I mean, about billing reconciliation, for example.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there are some people that
I couldn't be, but I'm sure somebody must be, right?
I'm sure someone is. But then you're really going to probably be good at other things, right? Like,
that's right.
That are more valuable to the company. And going back to the number one KPI for all businesses at post AI is revenue per employee. So our focus over the last 2 years is to grow, but not grow with people, grow with.
So when I unpack that, before I do, I think the best thing I've heard so far is what you were saying around the I want to get to the revenue per employee, but I want to go back to what you said around like, we hired you because you're great at solving problems.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it's easy for us to get stuck in there and go, well, I'm an L2, that's what I do. And the next rung has to be L3. Maybe you're good at operations. Maybe you're great in another area.
That's right.
So even if your job changes, or even if you're that dispatch, maybe you're just so good at solving problems. I could really use you in this area. I know personally, like not that exact one, but in a similar one, I've needed them to move out of dispatch into another area and solve a more valuable problem, but not until I fix the dispatch issue, if you will.
That is correct. Yeah.
So I love that it's really still thinking about the people and the best and highest use.
That's right.
I want to contrast that with, because some people get really nervous and maybe misread like revenue per employee. Because if that's now the North Star metric, we're tracking that too. We're making big improvements there. Like that is great. That makes the business more valuable, right? That sort of thing. How do you think about revenue per employee now in this kind of with or post AI world?
Well, yeah. I mean, to me, the way I think about it is that it's good for everyone. Like it should be the true North Star, because it's good for everyone. It sets the tone, and then you figure out, okay, if my revenue per employee is, let's say, 200K, it needs to be at 500K. How do we get there? It gives you like, that's why they call it North Star. It gives you a direction to march in. Yeah. And I think it's important because, I mean, look, if you're privately held, which probably a lot of people listening to your podcast are, you're not owned by private equity. You have to compete against them, and that's their North Star.
So help me understand, like you're going to grow. Let's see, you're with 30% or 70%, right? Or 100% or whatever, you're going to grow. Does that mean you'll not hire anyone? Does that mean revenue per employee being a higher one, you're going to be more effective, so you'll still hire, it'll just be less?
Oh, no, we'll still hire. I mean, we have a pipeline we developed with a local university here in town, Georgia Tech. And so we bring on 2 L1 interns in their junior, senior year, and we give them full-time summer, and then they do 10 to 15 hours a week in the fall and the spring, and then through graduation, and they get a guaranteed job offer when they graduate. So we always have, because we have to develop that pipeline, we have to protect that pipeline. And so we'll get just a constant stream of L1s moving into L2s moving into L3s. I think there's many MSPs that have already looked at, let me just hire some really good L1s and L2s and then have a retainer model for the L3, L4 type work. I mean, there's no harm, there's no foul in that, so long as you find the right provider, and that can increase your revenue per employee. Because hiring a really good L3, L4, whatever you want to call it, like a really good project engineer, you're paying 150, 200K in that position. So
is your thoughts on revenue per employee? It doesn't matter what the number is, 1 million to 2 million or 5 million to 10 or whatever. Like if you're growing, then, I'm making up the number. But if you were at 50 people at 5 and you're going to 100 people at 10, which would be a horrible revenue per employee, but still in my little fiction math, right? does this mean, well, you're still going to add, but maybe instead of 100 at 10, you're going to need 85 or 75?
That's right. And it's a lot easier culture to manage. Like if I can do 5 million with 10 people versus 30 people, a lot easier to manage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, do you think this generally accrues to the owner solely, or do you think this means that you develop these super high valuable kind of 10x players, which means that the pay per person goes up as well?
Yeah, I think the pay is going to go up as well, right? But you're paying more for those employees per person. Like at 10 employees at doing 5 million a year, you're going to be able to pay them more, and people need to make more at the end of the day. There's also fewer people. There's fewer good people. Like with the boomers aging out and the birth gap. I mean, we have some real structural issues, not just in our companies, but like, we're all experiencing the societal dysfunction right now. So we have to figure out ways to navigate it. And yeah, so ultimately I do think it will drive wages up. I think that's another benefit to that.
I'm just glad to hear you say that out loud, because so many I've talked to about this, they're saying that they believe that, but so many people just read articles of like, oh, there'll be less people, or like they're looking for the negative. And I think there's going to be some companies that will take shortcuts and they'll have negatives, but I think there'll be some really amazing opportunities that just weren't there before for the true problem solvers. So kind of any like last thoughts or wisdom, having been through this journey, for any owners of MSPs that are sitting there going, what do I do? How do I take the next step or make this transition? Like you've got the battle scars. What would you leave us with?
Yeah. Well, again, I mean, I would take some time to yourself to do some planning, do some praying, figure out, what, where's your company now? Where do you want it to be in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? And, not take out any outside noise, like, really truly give it thought and not get distracted by noise, by other people, telling me things, that they're probably not, qualified to tell you. Right. So,
a lot of hype out there.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the first thing I would do is like get off of technology for a day or two and do some soul searching. And, if you're an MSP and you're trying to figure out how to evolve beyond traditional support and build a more strategic business, if anything I mentioned earlier was interesting to you, I'd love to hear from you personally. So,
speaking of that, Robert, for folks that would like to reach out to you, pick your brain, talk about what you've been through, where you're going with Core 12 or Sobo, what's the best way to connect with you or find you?
Yeah, best way to connect with me is just my email. It's robert@sobo.ai, sobo.ai.
Okay. Don't miss out on the opportunity to reach out to Robert. A wealth of wisdom and hard fought lessons, and more than we even have time to get into today. So don't miss out on the opportunity to contact Robert. Robert, it's been a blessing having you on today. Thank you so much for being.
Man. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, it's good to be here, Damien.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
Yes, sir.